So it's great to welcome you back in Scotland.
Thank you.
It is brilliant, and it's great to have you with us at the RSNO.
I'm very excited.
And yeah, I mean, so were we. And we were very excited at first when we saw, Krzysztof Penderecki and Anne-Sophie Mutter. Yeah. Now, sadly, Krzysztof Penderecki had to cancel.
Yeah.
Which is
I think the birthday celebrations are just...
Were too much for him.
Yeah, and the entire... I mean, he's 85 years old, yes. And we can be all grateful that he's in such fabulous shape.
Yeah.
But traveling and conducting and composing, and at that age, I think everyone has a right to say it's just too much. I can't, do another. See what happened with me just traveling. It took me 10 hours to come from Munich here. All delays and luggage lost and gates closed and imagine doing that with 85.
With 85
it's no
just,
fun.
No.
I'm very grateful that I can play his piece.
Yeah.
And that I can bring it to Scotland.
Which is brilliant.
And that we have a wonderfully prepared orchestra.
We do, yes.
Which I had only the great fortune to play with for about 50 minutes because of my delay.
Yes.
But we have plenty of more rehearsal
time tomorrow, yes. Yeah. Because, Tchaikovsky 5 we kind of know quite a lot of. And it's the first time you play with Thomas Sonnegaard now.
Yes, it is the first time.
Yeah. No, it's good.
So, he is a very, very, very fresh new chef.
He is our very fresh new chef since September, yes, but he was our principal guest before.
Okay.
So he's kind of climbed the ladder a little bit. Yeah, but no, so we knew him, we knew what we let ourselves in for, he knew what he let himself in for, and we still decided to go for
match made in heaven.
Brilliant, yes.
Both sides
that is also why
happy.
That's also why the orchestra is very meticulously prepared, because he is one to really meticulously prepare everything.
Yeah, that's a great base from which then we can explore the character of the piece and the moods and the colors and feel a little freer.
Yes.
But it's a wonderful base to start with.
Yes.
That you don't have to struggle with rhythmical problems or.
Do you sometimes get that with other orchestras that you arrive and they basically don't know how the piece actually should go?
No, that not. But there are different levels of skills. I found the violas particularly well prepared.
Yes.
And it is extremely, these two solos are really, hair-rising. So, no, it's really, it's a very, very positive first encounter.
Yeah, great.
I think Mr. Penderecki would be happy. I will report back to him,
Excellent.
Of course.
You saw him last week.
I saw him last week.
Yeah.
Saturday was the end of a 1-week-long birthday celebration in Warsaw. Yeah. And I played his concerto.
Brilliant.
And he was present and he got the highest German distinction and he got another Polish distinction and he was showered with accolades, love, and which he more than anyone else deserved.
Absolutely,
so I was very moved to see that it's rarely the case, I find, that someone who, not only a private person, but someone who lives in the public eye and has done so much for mankind, I find with his music, to leave such monumental memories for human disaster. 7 Gates to Jerusalem, Hiroshima, Polish Requiem. Yeah. Nothing can be as earth-shattering as his music. No iron commemorandum can be as powerful as his music. So seeing that he is recognized for that internationally.
In his lifetime still, and not long after.
Yeah, and which is traveled China, and in China he is looked upon as, the young Beethoven. Fantastic. So it's very moving to see a young crowd there, totally freaking out when they hear his music.
Yeah. I remember a few years ago we played his Threnody for Hiroshima in a schools concert for secondary schools. And you know what teenagers are like usually in concerts. They were sitting so quietly and they could have heard a pin drop. Yeah. And it was just, they were absolutely fascinated by it.
It's great music. It's wonderfully crafted. If you look also at the second violin concerto, the theme and this, it is this this tension between the A and the D, and you have a wonderful architecture which so logically unfolds. Yeah. And at the end, the circle kind of closes. But by only listening to it, you don't realize how fabulously it's crafted. So the 2 layers of his compositorial skill is, of course, the architecture, but on the other hand, he is able to fill his scores with so much emotion and depth that even if you hear it for the first time and not understanding it quite well, but it leaves, it sticks with you.
Yes.
You will remember, and that's wonderful.
Yeah. The concert was actually written for you?
Yes.
And how much input do you actually have when...
None.
None at all.
That's why it's such a great piece. I met him in the 80s, in the mid-80s, listening to the world premiere of the Polish Requiem.
Oh, right.
I think it was in Stuttgart, at least the first part of it.
Right.
And I was a very good friend with Paul Sacher, the man responsible for a lot of the contemporary scores of the last 50 to 80 years. Scores Richard Strauss, Pierre Boulez, and then of course the younger ones like Penderecki, Lutosławski, Gubadulina, and so on and so forth. And actually in Richard Strauss, in Paul Sacher's house, I also met Krzysztof Penderecki and all the other composers who subsequently wrote for me. And I asked Paul, couldn't you give a commission to Krzysztof? And he did. And Maestro Penderecki finished the piece at the end of 1994, and we had set the date for the Uraufführung in July of 95. I, of course, fell in love with the piece right away, particularly also because the ending, there's this very intimate quartet setting, and the violin, not unlike the Berg Concerto, escapes into higher spheres, and it's, this suspended in the air D there. It's a voyage through a life, in a way, for me, the piece. And then sadly during that, not sadly, tragically, during that period my husband already was very sick, and he died on the 2nd of August, so shortly after the world premiere. So during the process of studying the piece, this metamorphosis we all have to go through, hopefully not all in such a tragic manner, has made Penderecki's piece a very personal piece to me, because it's inseparably linked to that chapter in my life, and it has actually, the piece has helped me. The beauty of the music, the depth of the music, the ending of it, the flying up, the soul being relieved of the tired body, something which we, depending on, if we want to believe in death, in life after death or not, which can be a consoling
very much
thought. So then from 95 on, of course, I commissioned several other pieces from Penderecki, because I love to have different settings for the violin. So he did a sonata, he did a fun piece for double bass and violin, and he now is writing, I hope, a kind of concerto corso.
Oh, brilliant. So what other instruments will that be?
He wasn't sure. For a while he thought 3 violins and a viola. Maybe now he's thinking 3 violas and a violin, but something like that. A smaller setting for string, because I have the Mutter's Virtuosi, which are scholars, either present ones, actual ones, or past scholars in my program. My foundation exists since 21 years, and we are helping young string players internationally, worldwide. So Mutter's Virtuosi is a string ensemble for whom some of the great composers have also written. So my input into Metamorphosen, 0. Sometimes in conversations like with Wolfgang Riem, you know, questions occur like, is there something I should avoid, or something you would like to, have included? And I'm always pretending that I have no difficulties. And secondly, I seriously do not want to interfere with the composer's natural flow of ideas. And the struggle is all mine, but, they are supposed to have me as a white canvas, and I will, fiddle around.
Get your fingers around it. Yes. To come, just once more, come back to the Metamorphosen.
Yes.
There's lots of people here probably coming to the concerts, and they say, we want to hear Anne-Sophie Mutter, but we are usually a little bit apprehensive about contemporary music. What do you tell them to kind of take the fear out of it? Because I have listened to it. It's such a gorgeous piece.
Yes.
But if you don't know it, what would you tell them?
I think that my remark about China and the young people who just were totally smitten with the piece, because I think the reason is they have no traditional hearing. So their mindset isn't too focused on how something should feel and sound. And that is a mindset which is always great if anything new happens in your life. A new, painting, a different painter, Indian cuisine you might have never tried. Penderecki you have never listened to. I can I love this music because it has so much color and we can connect so deeply with it. It has incredible moments of poetry and tenderness, and it has everything great art. You know, it's like I said earlier on, it's like a travel through a lifetime. You have the drama, you have the witty moments, you have the sarcastic scherzis, you have a great virtuosi cadenza, over 3 pages long with all sorts of somersaults backwards through the burning hoops, and you have the beauty of something which, yes, it is different, but it is music with a message, music which will stick with you. You will remember because it has touched you. It's not going to rush by you.
No, and I think it's impossible to not be touched by that piece. So it's
but you have to come, otherwise you will not be touched.
I think a lot of people will come. The Mutter Foundation, the Mutter's Virtuosi, you do a lot of kind of charity work, you do a lot of work for the young musicians. Not every musician does that, but you do.
Well, I don't know. When I was in my teenage years, like all string players, you might also sing the same song. You have the problem to find an adequate instrument, and then of course you might find it, but then how do you finance it? Exactly. So I went through that valley of tears, and I found on one side no help, and on the other side I did find help. I did find help in the small part of Germany I grew up with, in Baden-Württemberg, because they pre-financed the instrument for a few years until I could then slowly pay it back. So that was a great gesture, but it made me also realize how fragile the world of string players is, and how there are a lot of well-meaning, wonderfully organized foundations, but they are mostly run, if not all, by non-musicians, and that has its pitfalls. Particularly the fact that instruments on loan have to be given back.
Returned at some stage,
Exactly. And you basically live in the fear that you're losing your voice any moment. It's either this February or next February or latest in 3 years. And that is traumatic. So when I was 21, I founded my first foundation. Because I wanted to, do something useful for others. But that foundation is situated in Baden-Württemberg. It's very small. It only operates in Germany, and I was looking at it for many years and thought, this is really not good enough. So when I moved to Munich and my children were old enough that I could put something else on my plate. So that was 21 years ago, when my son was actually only 3 years old. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyhow, I founded the Anne-Sophie Mutter Foundation. And we are actually able to help worldwide with buying instruments, lending instruments. Wilde Frank, for example, she has then bought the instrument from us, from the foundation. We give commissions, so the understanding for contemporary music and the working together comes natural for the young generation. Of course, we pay for the studies, I tutor them, we go on tour, we make music together. I think there's actually... Of course, our budget is very limited, and my aim never was to buy Strats. My aim was to buy fabulous instruments like vioms, which are in a price range which not only the foundation can afford, but in a price range where the young student and later young soloist is able to see the end of the tunnel. Within kind of reach, and not when they are over 80 years old. And so things work really very well. I think for the few scholars we are having, I think we have had about 21 scholars from 16 different nations. And very few Germans. Sadly, no Scottish. Although Benedetti, Nicola, she wasn't my scholar. I know her very well. She's a wonderful violinist. But her boyfriend, Leonard Elschenbroich, he was a scholar of my foundation.
So that's how you
these are the kind of semi-Scottish ties.
Good. But you also do a lot of kind of other charity concerts for other charities?
Yes, that's true.
And when I look at your schedule, I mean, it's an eye-watering schedule. You're constantly traveling, playing concerts, playing different concerts. How do you pack it all in? How do you do it? How do you stay fit? How do you stay fit on the violin? relax.
I think that the thing with the benefits is really, I think that's the core of many musicians' lives. I just did my first recital with Daniel Barnbaum, and we have never worked as Kammermusik players together. I wanted to play for his foundation, who brings Jewish and Muslim musicians together in the Edward Said Barnbaum school in Berlin, and he was donating his part of the donation to my foundation, which is of course wonderful. Of course, education is important, but and for that we do concerts. But I also have projects for orphanages in Romania, which I'm actually looking after for now almost 20 years. Syria is a great concern of mine, and Save the Children is an organization which is, together with many others, helping to make life a little more bearable for the children there, to keep them in some sort of sheltered normality. I'm very concerned about Yemen. It is just, it's very difficult, you know, to look closely to what the world is suffering. But even more difficult is not to do anything. So that's why all these benefit concerts come around. And I think at the end of the day, at least if you know that you have tried to do something useful, your batteries get recharged in a way. And I have great kids, wonderful dogs. I love to walk. I love to do extended walks, 15, 20, 30, 40 kilometer hikes. And that, like from gate to gate today in Heathrow, it felt like my 40 kilometer hike, bad air, but whatever.
At least you have the fitness to do it.
Yes, exactly. And the right shoes. When I travel, always make sure you can run in case something goes wrong.
Excellent. I think, honestly, we thank you very, very much for this.
Great pleasure.
For giving your time here.
You're all very lucky that we didn't speak German, because that would have been difficult.
Not for us.